lost or damaged or wrongfully destroyed product are some of the more common weights and dimensions issues. There's a full myriad of reasons that a seller could be due back money. There's nearly 30 different claim types that exist for FBA reimbursement claims. It's all in your Seller Central. It's multiple different reports that you can file. Specifically, a new one is going to be the inventory ledger report. So they've since consolidated a couple of them into one space in Seller Central, which is great. Makes it a little bit easier to find and identify. But depending on how many SKUs you have, it's a time-consuming process. And the going back and forth with Amazon is a time-consuming process.
As much information is out there, it can be very siloed sometimes.
Yeah, you get excited about the new tool, but you also have to learn how to use the new tool. And then, okay, which of these metrics are vanity metrics and which ones are actually really important that we need to pay attention to? It's a lot to stay on top of, to stay up to date on.
Welcome back. I am so excited to have Lisa Kinskey from Getita. She is a marketing and partnership manager, and today we're going to go over FBA reimbursements. But before we really get into that, what are they? How is this useful to you as an Amazon seller? Lisa, welcome. I would love to have you share just a little bit about who you are and what it is that Getita does.
Yeah, awesome. Elizabeth, thank you so much for having me. So again, my name is Lisa Kinskey. I'm the Marketing and Partnerships Manager with Getita. I found my way into e-com via supply chain actually in July of 2020, so when everything was on fire.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, very interesting time to join, and really just fell in love with the Amazon space. Our service was helping Amazon sellers to source shipping and logistics, all that stuff. So I kind of understood the back end of selling on Amazon, and the opportunity came to join Getita and help sellers more directly. So I was very excited to join. So I've been with Getita since June of 22, so about 9 months now. And Getita's been around much longer than that, though. Been around since 2015. And in short, we are the global leader of Amazon FBA auditing and reimbursement. So that is all that we've ever done. It's all we ever will do is help sellers to find their discrepancies with FBA, get reimbursed, and just become more profitable businesses. But that'll be kind of the whole topic of today. So we'll get too much into it right now.
Yeah. I love it. I feel like you all are everywhere. When I think reimbursements, like definitely my mind thinks, oh, Getita. That's why when these kind of segments, what I'm trying to do is bring in experts, because obviously like we're the ad experts, but there's so many things outside of just the advertising that goes into selling. So I love bringing on people who just really specialize in a very specific thing that helps Amazon sellers. So I'm really looking forward to digging into, FBA reimbursements today.
Yeah, 100%. We feel similarly, and that's why we have the shows that we have. A little shameless plug here. Getita has 2 podcasts, Prime Talk and Sellernomics. I know you've done Sellernomics before with Rob. Yeah. Have you done Prime Talk yet? If not, we need to get you on right away.
I believe I have, but we'll definitely have to connect afterwards because I honestly can't remember.
But that's kind of like the whole point of our shows too, right? Is to speak with the experts in other facets of Amazon. Because again, we, same as you guys are the ad experts, we're the FBA reimbursement experts. And not that we don't know about other stuff. We have a highly talented and very knowledgeable team, but we're not like experts in what you guys do. So we pull in our partners to help the sellers grow in those other areas. So I love this format of show. It's my favorite thing to do. So
awesome. Well, yeah, with that being said, let's get right into it. So in the beginning, I always kind of define things because I feel like Amazon sellers, they're super savvy, but I don't think it's a bad idea to, just to start with the basics, defining. So what are FBA reimbursements?
Yeah, I love this. And especially in our space, too, we live off acronyms, right? So FBA, fulfilled by Amazon. You're also able to fulfill your product independently, which would be fulfilled by merchant. That's either doing it actually out of your own garage sometimes, or maybe through a 3PL. But fulfillment by Amazon is when you ship in your inventory to Amazon and they help with the picking, packing, and shipping it to the end consumer, to the shopper on the site. And an FBA reimbursement is exactly what it sounds like. It's money back to the seller for any issues that happened with their inventory in Amazon's warehouse. So let's say that the easiest example that I can give here is, Elizabeth, you send in a shipment of 1,000 units to FBA. Jeff isn't going to call you and say, hey, Elizabeth, we got all 900 of your shipment. Have a great day. No, it's on the seller to regularly check their account and say, okay, I shipped in 1,000. Amazon looks like they only got 900 of them. Where's my extra 100? So then you have to say, hey, go find them. They either locate a box that was accidentally shoved in a corner, or maybe it was left on the truck, or sometimes it's just missing altogether. So they'll either credit back the inventory to your account, or you'll get a cash reimbursement for it. So it's money back. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's just a very specific application in which that's the sandbox that we play in, I always like to say.
Very cool. You kind of like touched on this, but like what would be some of the reasons you would be overcharged, or like you said, missing shipments? Obviously, FBA reimbursements covers a lot, so I'd kind of be curious if a seller's going into their account, they say, okay, I know I need to keep on top of this. What are some of the things that they should be checking on?
Yeah, so great question. Definitely lost or damaged or wrongfully destroyed product are some of the more common. Weights and dimensions issues. Sometimes when a product is scanned in through their cubic scanning machine, because of the packaging that it's in, if you have a big old poly bag that your product is in that makes it look like it's 3 inches larger than it is, it could put you in an oversized category, and you're therefore going to be overcharged fees, right? And sometimes it's, like I said, product that's lost, that's been, destroyed or removed and it wasn't supposed to. So there's a full myriad of reasons that a seller could be due back money. There's nearly 30 different claim types that exist for FBA reimbursement claims. And as far as where to find them, it's all in your Seller Central. It's multiple different reports that you can file. Specifically, a new one is going to be the inventory ledger report. So they've since consolidated a couple of them into one space in Seller Central, which is great, right? Makes it a little bit easier to find and identify. But depending on how many SKUs you have, it's a time-consuming process. And the going back and forth with Amazon is a time-consuming process. We always educate sellers on how to run these reports on their own, because we want the industry to be as profitable as possible. But once it becomes a little too much to handle, on top of PPC, on top of sourcing, on top, that's where we're able to come in and kind of help them. So multiple different reasons a seller could be due back. It all lives in Seller Central, thankfully, but there's so much to Seller Central.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, because I know with us on the ad side, obviously we're pulling reports all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a ton of reports. I like to say, like, there's so much data, which is phenomenal. Like, I love how Amazon's like rolling out. It seems like there's a new dashboard, a new like data insights every single day. But you're really right. They do, when they roll them out, we go, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And then we go, great, okay, another report to download. It all seems, as much information is out there, it can be like very siloed sometimes.
Yeah, and it's like you get excited about the new tool, but you also have to learn how to use the new tool. And then, okay, which of these metrics are, especially like in advertising, which of these metrics are vanity metrics and which ones are actually really important that we need to pay attention to? I love that they want to give sellers as much information as they can. I mean, there's certain things that they're going to keep in-house, right? But it's a lot to stay on top of, just to stay up to date on all the time. So I don't envy sellers in that regard personally. it's a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we'll get to this kind of the end when we wrap up, but I think that's one of the things, like your platform is definitely able to do. At some point, like you were saying, large sellers, just with the amount of SKUs, having something like a tool that can like pull those reports, aggregate them, look at them in a way. I mean, we, again, with advertising, use certain tools that, again, kind of like aggregate a whole bunch of different reports.
Yeah, definitely. Our tool has actually direct integration into the Seller Central account. So we pull all of that data in and make it very easy to kind of take one look of, here's how much we could get back for you. Here's what we've gotten back so far. And kind of here's what we need. There's going to be certain pieces of information that we need from the seller. I don't have all of your, proofs of purchase or delivery. I don't have these, measurements myself. We don't have the product. We don't physically touch any of the inventory. So we try to make it as easy as possible to allow sellers to get the most back, maximize their refunds, as we say.
Awesome. Yeah. So if there's a seller listening to this, hopefully you've been taking a look at this in your account, but maybe if you haven't, where would you recommend them going to find those reimbursements? We talked about a couple different reports. What would kind of that process look like if you had to slog through it manually?
Yeah, so the quickest way and kind of the easiest ones to find are going to be those lost shipments. So you can get to them through the inventory tab. Like I said, that inventory ledger that they just created, it's a consolidated view that Amazon rolled out in like late January of this year. So you just go to Amazon Fulfillment Reports and click on your inventory ledger, and their copy for it is straight from Seller Central is inventory ledger report as like a bank statement for your inventory and shows the inventory movements to and from fulfillment centers. So it's like a one-stop shop to find that. So that's where you're going to go in and identify, okay, for this shipment, looking at units expected versus units received. This is the easiest one, right? And if it's still being processed, if it's in transit, if it just says like open, those are all good, right? If there's a discrepancy between like 1,000 and 900, like we said before. But it's when you see that difference and the shipment is closed that you need to initiate a claim with Amazon. So the inventory ledger report is going to be the quickest, easiest place to start to find those discrepancies.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's always nice when Amazon, it takes a little bit of our work away by doing like consolidated reports. So that's really awesome. So great. So if you go and you download that report and you say, okay, I see these things that are closed, I have these things, you touched on filing a report. I assume that entails like opening a support ticket, or how would you go about that?
Yeah, so you actually go in directly to Seller Central itself on that shipment. When you open it up, there is an opportunity under status to select what's going on. So you can either hit like research missing units would be what we would select here in this example. And then there's two options for you to upload proof of purchase, proof of delivery to initiate that claim. So that kind of says on Amazon's side, okay, we need to take a look at this. So it's within the shipment itself.
Oh, very cool.
Which is really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So that way it's attached to the specific shipment instead of you having to refer back into a support ticket and things getting lost.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to make a clarification here too, because this is something that we hear a lot of the time is, do I really need to do this? Amazon is already reaching out to me about, a reimbursement that they issued. The answer is yes. They're not emailing you proactively about every reimbursement that exists because, one, it doesn't behoove them from a business perspective. Yes, it's in their terms of service that they'll reimburse the sellers. But if they ran around all day trying to find anything that's been missed, they would be chasing their own tail for hours. It would spend twice the amount of time. So it doesn't behoove them from a business perspective to look for everything. Now, when they find something that is glaringly obvious, yes, they're going to reimburse you where it is applicable, but that's not going to be even a tenth of what exists in a seller account. Anywhere between 1% to 3% of a seller's annual revenue is impacted by a discrepancy. And when you're a small seller, that doesn't sound like a lot, but as you continue to grow, it becomes substantial. So that's kind of the most common point of miseducation that we find in this space is, well, Amazon's already doing it. Yes and no. They're doing a small portion of it. It's still on the seller to find these discrepancies and open the claim. Once you open it, they will absolutely investigate for sure. But they're not going to double back on their own work for every shipment that comes in. Nothing would ever get shipped out. It would just take up too much of their time.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely frustrating for sellers. You hear all the time of, the support tickets or issues with shipping or, long check-in times. And it's frustrating, like when you're in the midst of dealing with it. But that being said, it's not that they don't intend for that to happen. It's not like it's actually quite mind-boggling when you look at it. Like the sheer amount of logistics that they've been able to deal with is... It's quite impressive. Honestly.
It is. It's super impressive. And, when you think about the amount of product that is flying in and out of there every single day, like humans make mistakes, computers make mistakes, right? And, it's kind of on us to find it and fix it. But even though these discrepancies and these errors still occur, FBA is still going to be, in my opinion, the best way to fulfill your product because it's going to have the quickest delivery. You have all the eyeballs on Amazon's site, which in my opinion makes it the best marketplace to be selling on. And what's also incredible is even though these do exist, these errors and discrepancies, it's in their terms of service that they'll reimburse you. I've been asked if a service like this exists for 3PLs, and not really, because each 3PL is going to have their own policy on whether or not, they'll correct the issue. You know what I mean? So that's what makes FBA so impressive is what they have done, right? In terms of logistics, like you said, it's incredible. And then two, that they will make good on anything that happens, that negatively impacts the seller. So it's a really great program.
Yeah. So when you're saying like you go into the inventory, you have a way to click on, kind of reporting for that particular, and you touched on a couple of things that you most likely would have to have available to submit kind of like proof that you did ship in a certain amount of units. Do you mind just like quickly going over maybe one of the most common things, so if a seller is going to do this, kind of like the paperwork that they should be keeping and archiving?
Yeah. So like the easiest definition for like there's two pieces. So it's going to be proof of delivery or proof of purchase. So, which is also like proof of inventory ownership, right? So for proof of delivery for any LTL, which is less than truckload, or FTL, full truckload shipments, the bill of lading is essentially what they're looking for. Something that's showing the number of boxes in the shipment and the weight when it was picked up by the carrier. That's going to be the documentation that they're looking for on that side. For proof of purchase or proof of inventory ownership, it's really a receipt. Either receipt or an invoice from the supplier, any of that documentation, a signed packing slip even, if you're the manufacturer, something that proves that this was your product to begin with that you had shipped into them. So if you are providing a receipt or an invoice as a proof of inventory ownership, the price that you paid for the item is not required. So just know that. Just like a little bit of a pro tip, you can hide the price that you paid for it, but you do need to show that you did pay for the product itself. And a really cool tool, like I said, for proof of inventory ownership, proof of purchase, you can have the packing slip in there if you're the manufacturer. So we actually have a really cool tool in our dashboard, in Gatita's dashboard, called DocMaster that we built. I won't quite say alongside of Amazon, but we, have spoken with their team. It's definitely on the up and up, terms of service approved. They accept this documentation. You can generate a packing slip within our dashboard if you're a private label seller. It makes it very easy to respond to any of those existing claims that require that, to just say, hey, here's our logo. It autofills your logo, autofills name and signature, and it'll grab the shipment number and throw it in there and fire them off one after the other and get those claims filed more quickly and reimbursed more quickly as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah.
That's a little plug.
I can't imagine, like you said, as you grow to be a larger seller, keeping track of everything. That's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, it's a lot. Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, I'm sure everything is like digital now, but all I envision is an office just covered in filing cabinets filled with paperwork.
We're very blessed to live in a digital age where you can keep immense amounts of paperwork. But even at that point, I don't know, there's some times where I'm still dealing with things digitally that I think, if this could just be physical, it'd be so much easier just to take this and put,
Just grab it and move it. Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's why, I'm such a stickler for strong naming conventions in an organization. You need to, one, folders, my friends, use them. Two, name your files the same every time so it's easily findable. And a hot tip for sellers too, you can actually, the longest existing claim window is 18 months for certain claim types. So like with Gatito, when you use us, we automatically do an 18-month look back. You guys are totally able to do that on your own as well. So that's why it's important to keep solid documentation for these things as well, because sometimes you have something that you can get from a year and a half back. So
wow, that's a really great tip. Really great to know. Yeah, because my second question was going to be, when you're filing, typically how long does this process take? oftentimes?
It depends on the claim. Sometimes there's a lot of back and forth with Amazon. Sometimes they're closed out more quickly, and it depends on the claim type as well. Like with weights and dimensions, they have a much shorter claim window of 3 months. And that's a matter of saying, no, here are my dimensions. Something got fat fingered here or misscanned there. Here it is. Verification of your measurements. Sometimes photography could help, but they'll remeasure on their side and say, oh, okay, we're good, and then push it through. Other things take longer. So the timeline varies. That's why it's super important to file your claims as soon as a discrepancy arises so that you don't miss it before the claim window expires. But I hate that that's the question or the answer to the question, but it depends.
That's such a common, but I love how you gave, because the answers is always, it depends, but here's kind of the factors. So, I mean, you definitely did a good job explaining the factors. With this whole back and forth, obviously having good documentation and paperwork is insanely important and necessary if you're going to be doing these claims. Is there anything else that is good to have on your end that can maybe help make the process a little bit smoother?
Patience and kindness. It seems like a silly thing to say, but when you're working with the Amazon team, especially if you are filing these things on your own, you're going to be a little frustrated. We've already talked about how frustrating it is to, ship items in and they be missing, or, to be overcharged is never fun, right? It's especially in this world where we have such inflation and everybody's working really, really hard to keep their profit margins healthy. We can get a little heated kind of quickly. So you always want to be sure to stay professional and remain kind to the person on the other end of the phone or on the other end of the thread, I suppose. Yeah. And, don't double open your cases. Don't open a case for the same issue twice, and don't be super pushy. And don't try to game the system either. So just stay honest, stay kind with them, and just be patient and try to have all of your ducks in a row before you open it. Don't try to open anything too prematurely. Like I mentioned before, if there's still a shipment in transit where you see a discrepancy, there's no need to open a claim. They're still working on it. That doesn't warrant an investigation yet. Wait for it to get closed out, let them finish their process, and then say, okay, hey, I see these pieces are missing. So you don't want to just bombard them with tickets, because that's a good way to frustrate their team, and you might not get the outcome you want.
Yeah, well, it's recognizing that as much as you may be frustrated, you're dealing with another human on the other end of that line.
1,000%. And they're not the ones that lost your product. They're just the middleman handling the tickets and the customer service. So, yeah, just exactly. Remember that you're talking to another human.
Definitely. Well, this has been some insanely great information. I know you touched on the look back windows at what point you can submit or how far back you can look. But just to close this out, I would love to go over how often should you be auditing your account, pulling these reports, looking for these?
Getita audits seller accounts daily, round the clock monitoring. Now, for a seller, is that possible? Not really, right? Sometimes it's the seller has the means to hire somebody to monitor these full time. Considering the shortest claim window is going to be 3 months, and that's for weights and dimensions, and you also want to factor in time to work with Amazon, I personally recommend that you check them at least bi-weekly, no less frequently than that. Some would say monthly. Okay, yeah, that could work, but depending on how much inventory you're moving and how many claims you're going to have to be filing and working with Amazon on, you want to hit them as proactively as possible to kind of squash them and then say, okay, now let's check again. So weekly to bi-weekly is my personal recommendation. I would not do anything less frequently than monthly. And that's even if you're a smaller seller, right? If you're not moving a ton of volume, because then you have less kind of to monitor. So sliding scale, but I would recommend at least once every 2 weeks.
Awesome. Those are some great tips. I really appreciate you sharing all this information. It's been amazing. I'd love to, again, wrap it up. I know there'll be a link in the description if anyone's interested in checking out Getita, and like you said, just kind of being able to offload this, making it automated, not having to go in and pull 20 different reports, because I know, correct me if I'm wrong, there's more than just the FBA reimbursements that you all deal with.
Yeah, definitely. There's multiple kinds of FBA reimbursements. So we exclusively assist FBA sellers with their FBA reimbursements, but it's more than just the lost inventory. There's issues of like product miscategorization, weights and dimensions. There's various accounting issues that arise as well. If a customer says that they returned this ceramic coffee mug and they're reimbursed, that comes out of your pocket, but really you open up the box and they have sent back Purple Heart sunglasses. These are all the fun things that are on my desk right now. So that's not actually your product being returned to you. So there's certain customer returns issues, accounting issues that, fall under the umbrella of reimbursement claim types, different seller fees. If a return is damaged by the carrier, if something was returned but not refunded after 45 days, there's nearly 30 of them. So this resource exists on our site, gatita.com, under the About tab for Amazon audit types. So sellers can review that. But yeah, it's exclusively FBA sellers that we're able to assist. Of course, you can sell on other marketplaces too, but we're helping with the FBA auditing and reimbursements.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, there'll be a link in the description. Definitely go check them out. And Lisa, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.